Hey everyone, and welcome to Open Class. Hope you're doing really well. I'm excited about the 3 messages we're going to go over. Actually, 4. One is not so much a question; it's actually a suggestion. And by the way, for anyone that's new to the channel, what we teach here we call natto, stands for non-attachment to the outcome, and it's sort of like the best from CBTi and ACT and mindfulness, and we kind of developed our own approach here. And I'll share a lot of the concepts and models here in this video and in general. But someone told me that when she watched the video, it felt like she said like it feels like I'm just jumping in on a conversation that's been going on for a long time. So I'm going to try to make a point of sharing. Everyone that's new here, check out the description of this video or any new video, and you'll see that there are playlists there. And I think this is natto or the success stories playlist are both great places to just kind of start learning. I think that could be really helpful for anyone new to the channel who feels like they're jumping into a conversation, as this person said. All right, so with that said, let us actually jump in here and look at some questions. Before I do, as always, nothing here is medical advice, just general thoughts and suggestions that I hope will be helpful to anyone that is tuning in. And so I actually want to start with a message that came in through the app where I coach BedTyme. And this is from my client whose name is Manfred. And he wrote the following. I believe it was yesterday or the day before that. He had noted that for some people, courses like BedTyme or the Sleep Coach School may be expensive. He said, we know that many people struggle with the finances. So this was his idea. So here's my idea. Why not set up some kind of sleep well charity? People who want and who can, they can donate whatever amount they want. And as soon as you have, for example, like it's soon you will have paid for 6 months, just a number, what duration is advisable. But you can donate the course membership to someone who cannot afford it. People can apply to you by sending in an email and explaining their circumstances. And I just, I just want to share this because it was such a sweet thought. And I'm not saying it's not doable. Maybe it's totally doable. Maybe that's something we should really seriously consider. But mainly it was like, I just love that thought from Manfred of how you could like donate to like a charity, and that could, help other people sleep well, etc. That was a really sweet thought. So thank you, Manfred, for sharing that one. And we definitely have to ponder this. All right, now let's get to the sleep questions here. Firstly, we have a message from BK. Let's read this. Thanks for your advice on January 14th. I'm getting more and more depressed each day taking the sleep medication, and I'm expecting a baby by March this year. I understand that education is important. I actually completed CBTi online course last year, but I'm still struggling to fall asleep. I will start to get anxious if I can't fall asleep within 20 minutes. I know it's irrational fear, but somehow I just cannot overcome this. Sometimes positive self-talk works, sometimes it fails. So there's not one strategy which can make me calm down and sleep every night. I wake multiple times at night, but if I manage to secure 1 hour at the beginning, then I don't have a problem falling back to sleep on subsequent wakefulness. I try to focus on work during the daytime, hoping to distract myself, but I just can't stop worrying, even if I keep telling myself to accept and let go. I might be okay on one day, but the next day I start worrying again. I feel so hopeless that it's my own mindset that's blocking myself to sleep. Am I just needing more time to accept and let go, throw the medicine away and see how bad it can turn into and recover from there? Any suggestions for me to overcome this would be appreciated. Anytime, BK. I'm very happy that you're sharing, and I have some thoughts immediately here that I hope will be really helpful for you. So the overall, like if we would summarize this, we would say that this is someone who's struggling with thoughts, really, because worrying and anxiety and things of that nature, those are emotions that come from thoughts. This is a very important point, that thoughts produce emotions. That is where they come from. And there are various reasons you can kind of do like a little proof of concept here. My classic go-to thing is to tell somebody, like, just imagine a lizard, like with big teeth, like jumping at you. Imagine that right now and see how you feel. You probably feel a little, a little tinge of fear there. or imagine a little baby that's cooing and babbling and just like fat, chubby cheeks. Imagine that. You feel that nice kind of like a, happy feeling, right? That's just a proof of concept that thoughts produce emotions. But I thought of another one, which was imagine someone who looks like really sad, maybe teary-eyed, and they're kind of looking down, looking defeated or something like that. And imagine asking that person, what are you thinking about? And you imagine this person saying, I'm thinking that I'm going to have spaghetti tonight. That just doesn't make any sense. That's not true. That's not the case. And that's another way of like proof of concept there that thoughts and emotions are related. And in fact, our thoughts produce our emotions. So this was a long way of just making the point that what BK is talking about here is basically not wanting to experience certain emotions which come from thoughts. So it's a way of trying to escape thoughts that are undesirable or unwanted. And we can see that BK has done a few things to sort of get away from these thoughts. There is distraction, there is positive self-talk, and I think a couple of things here. So I think the first thing, and a very important natto concept that I want to talk about here is what I call implied. Actually, no. The illusion of controllability. Okay. So what does this mean? What's the illusion of controllability? Well, when you're in a situation where you're experiencing kind of a lot of obsessive, intrusive, undesirable thoughts, and you're experiencing anxiety, fear, etc., then oftentimes you think back about a time where things weren't like that. This is part of problem solving, right? So you think, why am I experiencing this now? And why did I not experience this back in the day? And the brain is, of course, trying to keep you safe, trying to come up with a solution here. So it wants to find something to hold on to, something it can do, right? That's part of problem solving. So the conclusion that the brain does often is that I had some level of control before, but I don't have any control now. And that is a very attractive thought because it suggests that there is some way to sort of get some control so you don't have all these thoughts and you don't have all these emotions. And that is basically what BK is asking about, like, how can I overcome this? How can I get past this? And how can I get some sort of control? And in fact, BK says that, I'm trying to let go and accept, but it doesn't work. I'm still having it, which again is like when BK mentions letting go and acceptance, those are actually efforts. Those are ways of trying to get some control, evidenced by the fact that when nothing changes, there is this sense of like, no, that didn't work, right? So there is this kind of search for control or search for overcome, the search for a way to let this go. And this is actually an illusion. There is an illusion here. There is an illusion here. And the illusion is that you had control in the past and that you've lost control now. And oftentimes that it's very similar when you look at other people who seem to be very calm and peaceful. And you think, why are they calm and peaceful and I'm not? And then again, the brain goes, they have some control, but I don't have any control. And that again is attractive to the brain because it looks for a way to like get some sense of security, right? And the problem here is that emotions become sticky when you try to get away, escape them, if you will. So what we can talk here about is actually very important too, is that thoughts, emotions are at baseline fleeting. Okay, they are at baseline fleeting. If you imagine like a squirrel that's sitting on the street and you almost hit it, and it kind of gets really scared, it runs away. But like a second later, it's sitting there kind of munching on a nut, right? It literally almost died, but like 2 seconds later, it's like kind of eating something, all calm and happy. And that shows you that these emotions that we have, fear and anxiety, they are just there for practical purposes. It's to make us kind of escape a threat, and then those thoughts and emotions go away by themselves. They're fleeting unless we do something to maintain them. And how do we maintain them? Trying to overcome them, trying to get away from them, trying to escape from them, trying to find some shelter, trying to find some security, right? That is what maintains them, okay? And you know, a squirrel can never do that. It can never happen to a squirrel, because a squirrel can never think about its thought. It can never judge its thoughts as unwanted. It can never try to escape fear, right? But we humans can do that. And when that confusion sets in, that there's something like, I have too many obsessive thoughts, I have too many intrusive thoughts, I have too much anxiety, I got to get away from it. That is why it's maintained. So you know, this you know, when you understand this, you also see the path forward, which is to, you know, get to that place of no resistance, when you are willing to experience really any thought that comes your way and any emotion that comes your way. Then you're no longer pushing back against it, you know. So I think that is the most important here, and there's no rush, you know. We know that Baker is pregnant, and there seems like this like sense of urgency, but in reality, the more you, again, we have another. Let's talk about another thing here, which is I call the paradox, the progress paradox, which is, again, everything is very paradoxical when it comes to sleep and emotions. In the normal world, like, the more you try to solve a problem, the faster you get to a place where you don't have a problem, right? But it's the complete opposite when it comes to sleep and emotions. The more pressured you are, the more you have like a goal, I gotta sleep well by this time, then the longer it takes. Weirdly, it's paradoxical again. The more you are like, I'm okay with the way things are, and I'm okay with this taking quite a while. I'm not going to pressure myself to feel a certain way by this time, or to sleep a certain way by this time. That's actually, paradoxically, that's what leads you to where you want to be in the smoothest and actually fastest fashion. So I know it's tricky, BK. I know it's tricky because you want something to hold on to, but again, the more you looking for something to hold on to, security, safety, the more sticky these things become. So I'll just end there and say, BK, I hope this was helpful. And, you know, please know that this is nothing unusual happening. Very, very common email. And, you know, we will talk more actually in this episode about why CBTi is tricky. I hope you learned something during that CBTi course that was helpful to you, but I'm not surprised at all, actually, that it didn't lead you towards liberation, you know? So we'll leave that. We'll leave things there, BK. But any follow-up questions, please let us know. And we have a short message here from Tracy. How long do you get your sleep back, and how long does it take? I didn't 100% understand this, Tracy, but I think that the question is, how do you get your sleep back, and how long does it take? And I think the kind of first thing that pops into my mind here is that it's not that sleep has sort of mysteriously disappeared, you know, for no apparent reason. It is rather that, again, like when you're hyper aroused, when you're wondering about sleep, thinking about sleep, then it doesn't happen. And, you know, the paradox here, the weird thing, if you will, is that when the brain has started to look at the lack of sleep as a threat and a problem, and it tries to save you from it, it does that by deploying like fight or flight, which makes you more awake. So bizarrely, it is when the brain is afraid of being awake, it does things that make you awake. You know, that's the tricky thing. But when you understand that, you can see that, oh, okay, it's not like sleep just disappeared. I can actually learn and kind of change my mindset, and sleep will come back to me. And how long does it take? We literally just talked about that with the paradox, progress paradox, that the sooner you hope to sleep well, the longer it takes. The more you're like, I'm okay with the way things are, it may take some time, the faster the journey it actually is. So Tracy, I hope that makes sense. And by the way, anybody who's live here, I see a couple of people live. If you have any live questions, just write a comment, and I'll be happy to answer those. All right, let's move on to the last one for today, which is from Jen. Let's read this. Thank you in advance for your attention anytime. Thank you so much for submitting this question, Jen. I hope this message finds you well and safe. It does. After struggling with insomnia for over 8 months, last week I had a full week of improved sleep. Nice. I actually slept 5.5 to 6 hours a night, I was so excited. I felt so much better. However, on Saturday night, I developed a physical issue. And due to being very uncomfortable, it has kept me up every night since, only sleeping 1 to 3 hours at night. I'm waiting to see a specialist, but no appointments until April. Oh, that's a long time. Wow. My question is, do I still continue with the sleep window and stimulus control? Or do I try to get sleep when I can, since it's something physical keeping me awake? I don't want to undo months of hard work with CBT, but at this point, I feel like I need to get sleep when I can, even if it's a daytime nap. Okay, there is a lot to talk about here that I think is very, very important. Let us actually, let's go back and forth here so I don't miss anything. But we'll talk firstly about the full week of improved sleep. Super important here. Super important. I don't want to miss out on this. So we have to talk about, like, what should we call this? It's very important to know the reason for sleeping better. Sleeping better is, I'm going to say all caps, always, always, always the same. Okay. So now that I've written this, we can take a look at a live comment. Actually, let's go here. B Bandito says hi. Okay. Hi, Bandito. Okay. Right. So back to the question from Jen here. We'll go to our banners. All right. So super important. So Jen, you've experienced some magic. After a long stretch of time, you actually had a week where you slept much better than in the past. Now, it is of extreme importance to see why that happened. It's always for the same reason. Okay. When you are not sleeping, it is either because you're not sleepy, or that you're hyper aroused, that you are anxious or stressed or excited or something like that. And when it comes to insomnia, that is not a gas problem, meaning it's not a lack of sleepiness that causes that. It is not. It is a break problem. It is that there is worry, anxiety, preoccupation, puzzlement, like that, right? And here is the thing. When you slept better this week, it was because you were less hyper aroused. It was because you were letting go. You were trying less to sleep. You were actually, weird as this may sound, you were more willing to be awake at night. That was it. You were more willing to be awake at night. How do I know that? Well, insomnia comes from resistance. It comes from a place where I don't want to be awake at night. I want to sleep. And somebody who's like, I got to sleep. I want to sleep. I need at least this many hours. I have to get that. They're not going to sleep well. Only a person who is somewhat willing to be awake at night, that's not trying hard, will sleep better. You slept better because you started letting go. That's where the magic came from. Now, here is the big confusion. This one is a common concept I talk about quite a lot, implied controllability. And this is sort of my critique to CBTi. Don't get me wrong. I am very grateful for like Spielman, Glinsky, everybody who put together CBTi, because that's where I started. And the 3P model, very, very good. But the problem with CBTi is that it has become so focused on these behavioral changes. So I said to what was his name? Trevor, who was a guest on this channel a while back. We were talking privately. I said, there's only two problems with CBTi. It is stimulus control and sleep restriction. But I mean it. I said it jokingly, but I truly mean it. And the thing is that problems, insomnia comes from a place where you feel like you've lost control, which was not, we just talked about the illusion of that. That's not the case. But it feels like you lost control and you got to regain control. And with CBTi, they say, spend less time in bed. If you can't sleep in 20 minutes, get out, reassociate the bed with sleep. It implies that if you do these things, you will sleep better. It's an implied controllability problem, which leads you to a position where if you're lucky and you do this sleep restriction and stimulus control, and you start sleeping better, you think, oh, this is great. I can sleep. There's no problem. I can forget about this whole thing. It works great. Perfect. You're liberated. You're free. You don't worry about sleep for the rest of your life. Perfect. But the problem with CBTi is that it often leads to a fragile truce with sleep. You're sleeping a bit better, but you think that it's because you're doing these things. I'm doing the sleep stimulus control. I'm doing the sleep restriction, and I got to keep doing that, right? To have some sleep, You're not free. You're actually still a prisoner, You're not liberated, and that is the problem with CBTi. And here's the thing. When you have fully seen, Jen, that sleep comes from a place where you're not resisting anymore, when you're willing to be awake, you can go there again. You can just know that that's it. Letting go is where everything good, comes from, and you've already experienced that. So that was kind of my big thing reading this message. And before we continue, we'll take a little break here with some live questions. All right, so B Bandito says, I've been battling insomnia since midway through quarantine. I've been overcoming it bit by bit. I had a relapse last night after roughly 1 month of consistent sleep. What do? I feel like I've failed. Listen, this is actually exactly what we talked about. I hope you caught this conversation we just had. I want to say that you slept better, not because, and this is the confusion, it's not, you felt like you were battling insomnia, which it feels exactly like a battle, right? But the battle is just a confusion, actually. There is no real threat or real enemy. It's just your brain has become confused and thinks that being awake is a threat and a problem, and then you feel like you got to do all these things to like combat it, to fight it, to get back at it, whatnot. But that never helps. As long as you're battling, you're gonna sleep little, because that makes you just hyper aroused. So when you slept better after a month, that month came from letting go, from abandoning the fight. And again, when you see that, when you completely realize that, you can easily abandon the fight. Trying less, maybe spending a little less time in bed, trying less. That is the way. So I'm very hopeful for you, B Bandito, that when you see this, you can get to a place where you're liberated for the rest of your life. You have no struggle whatsoever. Lynn says, when being willing to experience negative emotions, how far do you take that? I find negative emotions can take over and become overwhelming. I totally get this one. And this is so tricky because when, to me, the way I look at it, and again, no medical advice here, just me sharing my general, thoughts here. The implication that, I'm willing to experience negative emotions to a certain degree, but not more than this, leads to what I call a acceptability threshold. Let's talk about this. Acceptability threshold. And basically what this is that you sort of draw a line in the sand. You say, I'm willing to experience negative emotions to this point, but not more than that. This is where I draw the line, And that, again, the acceptability threshold is attractive to the brain because it gives you some sense of control. You're kind of saying, this is okay, but not that much, okay? And that's why it kind of gives you some sense of safety. The problem is that comes with a price. When you've drawn that line in the sand, you have kind of this threshold, then it begs for action. It begs for, okay, so when I go past that threshold, when I have more negative emotion than it's acceptable to me, I have to do something about it. And we know that whenever you try to do something, you try to escape it, things get worse. It becomes more sticky. And another problem is when you're sort of approaching the threshold where you've had negative emotion, but you're not at the threshold yet, but you're kind of getting there. You become more pressured. You're like, what if I have that? What if I go over the threshold? What am I going to do? It's very anxiety producing. So as difficult and tough as it sounds, the best thing to do is not to have any thresholds, because that's scary. That prospect is scary. But once you see that that's the only path to true liberation, then good things start happening to you. good things start happening to you. That threshold is tricky, but that's really the way I look at it. The Sleep Coach School says your brain likes to keep you safe. I think this is a very, very good point. I don't know who this is. Is it my wife or if it's Coach Michael? But okay. Michael says, you have to accept all the negative thoughts. That's what makes it work, but does have a payoff in the end. Yeah, I think that's what I think too, Michael. I think it's tough, but I think that is the way. Thanks so much, Michael, for sharing that. Neo Tiger says, hello, what should I do on nights where I have a lot of anxiety, which results in trouble sleeping? I try to read a book or something boring, but it doesn't help. And yeah, this is, let's see, is there any particular concept we can talk about here? We already talked about implied controllability. Maybe we can talk about the cave. Let's talk about the cave here. So, I'm going to call it the shelter instead. The shelter. So, hello, Tiger. Tiger says, I try to read a book or something boring that doesn't help. So let's say you have a lot of anxiety. So we're going to use this perceived threat model where we talk about like the grizzly bear. Okay, so when your brain is a safety machine, it's a survival machine. It's always there to try to keep you safe. And when it's facing a real, tangible physical threat like a grizzly bear, the brain is in its zone. It knows exactly what to do. It's perfect. It's designed for it. It's like deploy fight or flight. Either you scare the bear away or you hide from it. Either way, good. You survive. Perfect. Now, the brain can get confused, though, specifically now in 2021. There is not that many like real, tangible physical threats like coming at us. And so sometimes, again, it gets confused. And a common confusion is that the emotion anxiety is the fear. Instead of seeing the anxiety as like a signal, it becomes the problem. It becomes the threat. It becomes the thing you want to avoid. It becomes the grizzly bear, right? So of course, when you're facing a grizzly bear, you want to escape. You want to get away from it. You don't want to be attacked by it. You want to find something to do. And that's where kind of like reading a book becomes an effort of trying to escape. Yeah, you're looking for shelter, right? And the point here is that the mere act of looking for a shelter is problematic, because when you're looking for safety, you're teaching the brain that it should look for safety. You're teaching the brain that anxiety is no good. You're teaching your brain that anxiety is unwanted, undesirable. We should try to escape it. And the more you teach the brain that, the more the brain thinks like, yeah, anxiety is really something I don't want. And it starts monitoring for it. And what previously you could, tolerate a certain amount of anxiety without trying to look for shelter. But the more you train the brain this way, the more of a problem it seems to be to it. And the less and less anxiety triggers you to look for shelter, And sometimes, it seems like something did offer, a safety. Like some people say, but breathing exercises, that's the only thing that helps. The problem with that is like, at some point it doesn't. And then it feels like even if you found shelter, you no longer have any, and the bear is there again, and you have to look for it again. So I think the key thing here, I want to say to Tiger, is that again, the more you try to like get away from it, the more trouble you have. The more you try to sit with it and understand that it's just a signal, and not to try to escape it, then good things will come your way. All right, Marion says, when I doze off, my heart rate goes up so rapidly, yanks me out of my sleep over and over. It feels like torture. Is this my anxiety? My heart feels exhausted. Never had insomnia in my life. I think, again, nothing here, nothing here is medical device or anything like that. If anybody's concerned about your health, then talk to a doctor. But I want to talk here about cues and clues, okay? Cues and clues. So a cue is a very, very obvious signal from the body that is telling you to do a certain thing. So, for example, this is, I'm feeling hungry, body wants you to eat. I'm feeling cold, body wants me to put some blankets on and feel warm. Those are cues, okay? And then we have clues. And a clue is not a straightforward message from the body telling you to do a certain thing. It is something that indicates to you what is happening with your thoughts. So a clue is, for example, heartbeats, like rapid heartbeat, palpitations, breathing fast, sweating, out of body experience, feeling that the room is shrinking in on you, that's a clue. That is a clue that you're thinking about something that is producing these sensations. There are some thoughts that are producing anxiety that is producing these sensations. Very, very common, extremely common, in fact. Jolting out of sleep, completely awake, or as you're about to fall asleep, jerking awake. Very common. So I think, again, like we talked about like so many times on this in this episode itself, is that when you try to escape anxiety, those thoughts, things get worse. When you see that, oh, there's really nothing wrong with me. So many other people experience the same thing, and you no longer think there's something wrong with you, then things get better. And you don't try to escape it. That is really the thing. Let's see. Bender says, I've been trying to follow my sleep window for a few days, but my sleep is still bad, and it makes it hard to stick with the window and not sleep and nap. Do I need to force myself to stay up during the day? In fact, Bender, let's do this. Let's take a quick look at the message from Jen. Oh, is this Jen? Is this Jen? Is this Jen that wrote the message? If so, that's really cool. I hope you caught the early part, or if not, you can listen later. But what Jen said here was this: do I still continue with the sleep window? We're going to go over that. Stimulus control, I basically think, just short there, stimulus control is very unhelpful, I believe. I think befriending wakefulness is the thing you need to do. Doing things at night that are not ways of trying to escape wakefulness, but has no intent but to be something you like to do, like read or do a puzzle or some dishes or watch some Netflix or listen to a podcast. Show the brain that it's okay to be awake. Befriend wakefulness. That is good. The timeless night is very good too. Not knowing what time it is, not monitoring how much you sleep, very, very helpful too. The sleep window, we'll get to that in a second. I try to get sleep when I can. Oh yeah, this one. Okay, and that one. Okay. So first of all, I don't want to undo months of hard work with CBT. We've seen that there is really, like, good sleep comes from not trying. So there isn't it wasn't like these months of hard work that led you to sleeping better, but it was that the not trying that led there. So there isn't anything you can lose really there. Secondly, okay, should I get sleep whenever I can? Important one. Whenever you are chasing sleep, you're like trying to get sleep whenever you can get some sleep. You are training the brain that being awake is bad and sleep is desirable, which is the whole reason you have insomnia at all. So I want to say, when it comes to sleeping during the day, and this goes for Bender too, when you think about sleeping during the day, if the intent is simply to take a nice nap and feel a little bit better, perfect. But if the intent is to try to get some extra sleep, that is best to not do, because that reinforces the whole narrative that is causing insomnia. And now to the sleep window. I've been trying to follow my sleep window for a few days, but my sleep is still bad. Okay, super important. Just in that sentence, we see that there's effort. We see that the intent of the sleep window here was to produce more sleep. Whenever you do something to try to produce more sleep, you have more trouble sleeping, because the more you try to sleep, the less sleep you get. When a sleep window is approached as a way of detachment, something entirely different happens. When you say, I'm going to get up around 7 and I'm going to stop checking the time at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or something like that, because when I give myself maybe a little bit less time allotted for sleep, I'll try less for sleep. I'm going to give up control. That's beautiful. That is the way. Okay, so that's a little bit about the sleep window. Sleep is bad. It makes me hard to stick with the sleep window. Do I need to force myself to stay up during the day? Again, no need to force yourself to stay up, but if you're trying to chase sleep during the day, best not do it. Also, of course, if you take a 4-hour nap during the day, it's going to affect how you sleep at night. But sleep comes from a place of no pressure. When you feel pressured to stay up, no good. So I think it's much better to decide, I'm going to give myself a lot, like 8 hours for sleep, but I'm going to not check the time, not monitor how much I slept, etc. That gentle way is really, really helpful. We have someone, hello, I have SFI, I'm from Russia. We have a lot of content on SFI, and I guess my number one thing is that if you have that, which is very rare, and I doubt that someone with that could actually type a message, but no medical advice here. But I want to say, if someone really believes that you have that, then there's really nothing that can be done. So I think you can take the time to really tell people that you love them, and do say those things that you want to say to people. And if you have SFI, then at least you had a chance to do that. If you don't have it, and then you after a couple of months you realize I didn't have that, and then you told people that you love them. So either way, something good comes with that one. Different one. I don't remember sending that message. Okay, there's another Jen. All right. Oh, this is Tracy. Okay. Hey, what's the best way to do sleep restriction? And we actually just talked about that, which is you give yourself what I call my opinion is that the best is to give yourself what I call a timeless window. Actually, let's write this down. A timeless window. Timeless sleep window. And that is when you have a certain time where you get out of bed and start your day. And then you stop checking the time, maybe like 8 hours before that. So let's say you say, I'm going to get up around 6, be pretty consistent about that. And I'm going to stop checking the time around 10 p.m. and just go by what I feel. If I feel like laying down, resting, closing my eyes, great, I'll do that. If I feel pretty alert, I'll do something I enjoy. I'm going to befriend wakefulness. I think that is the best way, in my humble opinion. Okay, perfect. I think we'll call it a day there. I hope this was helpful to anyone that tuned in. And we'll be back with more very, very shortly. If anyone out there, feels like I would like a little bit more support guidance than what we have here in kind of open class, then you are very welcome to download BedTyme from your app store. You are very welcome. That's has a curriculum, and I coach there. I also coach together with Coach Michael in our self-coaching master program, which you can find on our website. And that is a video-based curriculum. We have a Slack channel. It's a group, a very nice supported group, by the way. So that is also a great option. Cool. Tracy says, I cannot fall asleep. I think, Tracy, if you just spend some time here learning, you'll learn a lot that will be helpful to you. But again, yes, stay asking questions and learning, that will get you a long way. So, okay, perfect. We'll end there. I'll see everyone very soon. Until then, take it easy.